This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. U.S. officials are saying it is likely possible that Iran is responsible for a torpedo attack on two tankers today in the Straits of Hormuz. The incident occurred this morning just off the Iranian coast in the Gulf of Oman. Two American ships from the U.S. Fifth Fleet rushed to the area to assist the tankers. 21 sailors were evacuated. Gary Lane is joining us from the CBN newsroom with the latest. Gary.
George, tensions are escalating today in the Persian Gulf, and war fears are spreading throughout the Middle East after this latest attack. It comes about 1 month after explosions blew holes in 4 ships off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. Iranian proxies in Yemen were blamed for those attacks, but Japan's trade minister confirmed today's incident was an attack on Japanese cargo. He said he didn't know for certain what was on the ships, but he thought the ships carried methanol or naphtha. This occurred in a strategic shipping choke point, the Straits of Hormuz, and that's the doorway to the Persian Gulf. Ships from this oil-rich region must pass through there before traveling to the open sea and markets around the world. And that's why a lot of people are worried today if attacks like this will continue. Oil prices spiked after the attack, but then they settled down a bit. Associated Press business news editor Charles Sheehan explains why today's attack in the Gulf of Oman may have little effect on oil prices in the long run.
The price went up about 3 to 4% right after this news of this incident began to emerge. However, oil prices this year are plummeting. We're at a 5-month low. Prices are down, I believe, 13% this month alone, and that's because of slowing global economic growth and also the burgeoning trade war, which the United States is very involved in.
That's the economic side of this incident. As for the political side, Iran denied involvement. It came around the same time that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, was meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Was this just a coincidence or something more? An attack occurring on Japanese cargo as Iranian officials held meetings with Japan's prime minister? Well, some Middle East analysts are saying Iran would have nothing to gain by launching this attack. They believe some American allies in the region, enemies of Iran, would like nothing better than to see the United States pulled into a war with Iran. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres was deeply concerned by the tanker attack. At a UN Security Council meeting today, he said, quote, "If there's something the world cannot afford, it is a major confrontation in the Gulf region." Back to you, George.
Joining us now is Zvi Khan, a senior Iran analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Sir, Mr. Khan, a U.S. defense official says it's highly likely Iran is behind these attacks. Do you agree? And why would Iran do this?
Well, it certainly would be consistent with Iran's playbook. So I certainly think there's a good chance that Iran is responsible. Typically, when Iran is faced with its back against the wall, it likes to lash out through proxies or through low-level attacks that fall short of a full-scale military confrontation, but are aimed at sending a message to the United States and its allies. In this case, I think Iran recognizes that its current economic crisis is unsustainable. It's looking for a way out. I think it wants to send a message to Europe and to other members of the international community that they want to see benefits from the nuclear deal. They want to see a restoration of economic ties with Iran. And I think this is a way of sending that message. I don't think, though, that the United States and Iran are on the verge of a full scale of a military conflict or of a war. This is more of a war of messaging almost between the two sides, a way of burnishing their strength and suggesting that neither side is going to be intimidated by the actions of the other.
One of the ships was carrying Japanese-related goods. Talk about the timing of this attack, given Japanese Prime Minister Abe's visit to Iran on Wednesday.
Well, certainly it's an expression of defiance on the part of Iran in that sense, assuming Iran is responsible and given the nature of the target. But again, in a certain sense, these kind of actions by Iran, assuming it's Iran, are ultimately really an expression of weakness, I would say, on the part of Iran, a sense of they don't really have too many good options here. They know they can't go to war with the United States because they know that the United States would prevail in any conventional conflict, and they may not want to go to negotiations with the United States. But eventually, I think they're going to come to the realization that they may have no choice if they want to survive. So short of that, so even while negotiations might not take place in the immediate future, I think this is a way for Iran to sort of show strength pending that until they eventually reach the inevitable choice where they have to really talk to the United States.
Let's keep in mind also that we had the tanker wars of the 1980s, where we saw a whole lot more attacks on oil vessels back then. We're nowhere there today, right?
No, I don't. Again, I don't see Iran is in a very significant period of weakness right now. It really can't afford to have a full-scale confrontation like that. That's why we're seeing these low-grade attacks that give Iran a sort of plausible deniability. Although it's likely Iran is responsible, they're at a certain distance from it. You could say they're acting through their proxies, and when a proxy is doing it, it kind of gives the regime an excuse to sort of create some distance. So in that sense, when you look at it that way, it's a sign again that Iran really doesn't have a way forward here, and that's why it's lashing out in this kind of way.
Okay, Mr. Khan, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
The Eastern European nation of Moldova plans to move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The acting president made the decision to move the embassy this week. If the declaration holds, Moldova will be the first European country to move its embassy to Jerusalem. A new survey shows Americans realize anti-Semitism is getting worse. The poll among likely voters found they recognize the problem and they don't like it. The poll was conducted for the Hudson Institute Center for Religious Freedom. Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, the center's director, Nina Shea, says the poll also found that most Americans don't think Democrats are doing enough to combat anti-Semitism within their own party.
Someone like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who said anti-Semitic tropes earlier this year. She has a majority of Americans, plurality, do not like what she said. And amazingly, 15% of them, of the likely voters, know who she is. And she's a freshman congressman that's only been in office for maybe 4 or 5 months when this poll was taken. So that's extraordinary.
And it's not just Ilhan Omar, but Rashida Tlaib of Michigan as well, another freshman representative. And what's amazing, Nina, is we're not seeing anything from the Speaker of the House criticizing this.
Right. When is Nancy Pelosi going to say something about this? And, you know, 63% of respondents to our poll said that it is not Islamophobic to criticize Ilhan Omar for being anti-Semitic. So Nancy Pelosi has nothing to be afraid of. She should speak out. It's incumbent on her to speak out.
Well, I think
before this really does become normalized, at least within one of our parties. It's very frightening.
Find out more about the poll and hear Nina Shea share her thoughts about growing anti-Semitism on American college campuses by tuning in to The Global Lane. That's tonight at 9:30 Eastern, right here on the CBN News channel. Coming up, the fight for life took a hit this week with pro-abortion laws passing in Illinois, in several states, how pro-lifers are responding. And before we go to the break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Roman soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next. This is a bad omen.
Hosted and narrated by Gordon Robertson,
So does it still exist today?
CBN Documentaries presents a story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity.
Most of the victims were butchered.
And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Take a journey to find Treasures of the Second Temple, a CBN Documentaries presentation, coming July 8th.
And welcome back to the CBN News channel. We begin with the latest state abortion law in the headlines. Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker has signed sweeping abortion protections into law.
In a time when too many states across the nation are taking a step backward, Illinois is taking a giant step forward for women's health. When it comes to contraception, abortion, and reproductive care, this law puts the decision-making where it belongs, in the hands of women and their doctors.
But critics say the measure strips all rights from unborn children, changes the definition of the viability of a fetus, and legalizes abortions through all 9 months of pregnancy right up to birth. One state Republican said Illinois is now one of the most radical states for abortion access. The move comes as Democrats in other states have also moved to expand abortion rights, while Republicans in many states have passed pro-life laws to protect unborn babies. Mary Kate Knorr is with Illinois Right to Life. Mary Kate, how do the pro-life forces in Illinois plan to fight back after the passage of this bill?
Yeah, you know, the number one thing I think that we're focusing on is, where did we actually lose this fight? We didn't lose it with the governor. We didn't lose it in the Senate. We lost this fight in the House. Speaker Madigan cheated the process to push this bill through. Pro-lifers had overwhelmingly responded. The numbers are just out of this world in terms of people who actually physically showed up at the Capitol, people who called their representative, and the Speaker knew that the response was strong, so he snuck this bill through the process. He actually added the full text as an amendment to a totally unrelated mental health bill. So that's how we intend to move forward. We want the public to know that they were cheated on this, and we also want the people of our state to know that enough is enough. We have to really go after the House specifically on this issue.
What are some of the biggest concerns you guys have now that the bill was signed into law?
Gosh, the concerns are endless. This bill, fundamentally what it does is it provides that an individual has a right to an abortion, not a woman, an individual, and that a fetus does not have a right to life. So it really works to address this concern that Roe v. Wade could potentially be overturned. And what it does is it makes it a fundamental right for a person in our state to receive an abortion. So we know that as a result, we're going to have more women across the state receiving abortions. We'll have women from states across the country traveling to Illinois to receive abortions, especially late-term abortions, because late-term abortions are now legal under this new law. Clinics will not be licensed or inspected by the Department of Public Health under this new law. Doctors are not required to be present for the abortion. The concerns are truly endless. There is absolutely nothing good in this bill, and it wiped away pretty much every restriction that we have on the books in that regard.
I know a lot of pro-life advocates are looking ahead to the eventual overturn of Roe v. Wade. Do you think this bill could spark that and be taken to the Supreme Court?
You know, that's a tough question. I think that that's a tough question. I don't know that this bill would be necessarily the right bill to make that argument. I think that the concerns we have are a little bit different, because as we see bills popping up in other states across the country, Planned Parenthood specifically said months ago when Kavanaugh was approved that they were going to target states like Illinois. So what they have intentionally done is taken our state and really just blown open all of the laws because they are concerned about states like Alabama and Georgia passing laws that will be a genuine challenge to Roe v. Wade when it comes to the Supreme Court.
On that very point, as you know, we're seeing a large contrast across states passing pro-abortion measures and pro-life measures. What states should we be looking at next? What's going on around the country?
Gosh, I think there's so many things going on around the country. We are keeping a special eye on Missouri as they make changes to their law, particularly because it impacts us directly. You know, people like to sort of frame our neighboring relationship with Missouri as sort of a tale of two states, that you have Illinois, which is so extreme one way, and Missouri, which is now working its way in the other direction. We have a lot of women that come up from Missouri and travel to Illinois abortion clinics to receive their abortions. We actually have hotels in a lot of those surrounding areas that offer discounted rooms for women who come from out of state. So that's certainly something that we're looking at and that we encourage other people to look at as well, as what's going on in Missouri and also other states in the Midwest, too. There's a lot going on.
Okay, terrific. Mary-Kate, thank you so much for being with us. Mary-Kate Noor is with Illinois Right to Life. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Up next, how the faith community has helped to rebuild Rwanda more than 2 decades after the devastating genocide that took 1 million lives.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the genocide that took the lives of nearly 1 million people in Rwanda. CBN's Ephraim Graham traveled to the East African nation to see how faith and forgiveness have helped to reshape and rebuild the country. We want to warn you, some of the images and information in this report can be disturbing.
With this horizon, it is easy to see why Rwanda is called the land of 1,000 hills. More than half of the population makes a living farming these lush lands. In 1994, however, this water-soaked soil became a tribal killing ground. An estimated 800,000 Rwandans murdered in just 100 days, mainly Tutsis at the hands of radical Hutus. The tension between the tribes stemmed from Belgian colonizers dividing Rwandans by ethnicity. They felt Tutsis were superior, and in the 1930s mandated all Rwandans carry ID to indicate their ethnicity.
We need to help one another. That is the only thing.
that is keeping us alive.
It's hard to tell Rwanda's genocide story without a stop here at the Hotel Mikoline. It served as a refuge for some 2,000 Rwandans during those 100 dark and bloody days. The hotel was also made famous in the film Hotel Rwanda.
Listen to me, good people of Rwanda.
This scene recalls April 6, 1994, the moment that ignited the genocide.
Horrible news. Our great president is murdered by the Tutsi cockroaches. They tricked him to sign their phony peace agreement. Then they shot his plane from the sky.
The truth about who shot down the president's plane is still not known, but the violence that followed will never be forgotten.
They took my child and they cut her in 2 pieces.
April 29, 1994. Alice Makarinda lost her arm, her child, and nearly her life.
The Interahamwe militia had operating hours. There was a whistle that would go at 10 a.m., marking the start, and at 3 p.m., marking the end. And so we knew those hours and we would go and hide. On that day, we did the same. We would either hide under the dead bodies when we heard them come to start shooting, or dig a place to hide.
Scars mark the beating and mutilation Alice endured after soldiers found her and her baby in hiding. They brutally beat her husband before rescue workers pulled him to safety.
When he started to come back to his senses, he remembered that they had left me. He asked the military and the police to take him back to where I was.
Genocide ended in July 1994. Paul Kagame, now the president, led a rebel group to seize control of the country. Since then, he's worked toward unity. There are no longer Hutus or Tutsis, only Rwandans. President Kagame reaffirmed his commitment to never see history repeated at an event marking the 25th anniversary of genocide's end.
Every day, we learn to forgive, but we do not want to forget.
Ananias Santosi is operations manager for the humanitarian organization World Vision. He says choosing to forgive is what's moving the country forward. After the genocide, World Vision was on the ground with first aid, food, and medicine. It also played a major role in reconciliation.
You cannot think of long-term development if people are disconnected, united.
The radical Hutu militia pushed propaganda and encouraged citizens to participate in the killing of Tutsis and moderate Hutus. After the genocide, many of those responsible flooded the criminal system. But President Kagame refused to kill as punishment and abolished the death penalty. Instead, he offered another solution, a system of community courts called Gacaca. It allowed criminals to confess and seek forgiveness.
I started forgiving myself when I stood in front of the court.
Emmanuel Nadiyaseba confessed his crimes after prison, became a community-building volunteer, and while working, he realized he was actually on a team with one of his victims, though she had no idea who he was.
We both joined the Association of Peace Building and Reconciliation that World Vision was involved in.
After her attack, Alice said a prayer.
I wanted to be close to God and not just be on the surface.
Asking God to bring her to those who wronged her and to lead her to forgiveness. She didn't think her prayer would be answered. And then Emmanuel asked to speak with her.
I was always sweaty. I was always nervous. Everything was hot everywhere. I fell down on my knees and raised my hands up and told her that I am the person who was responsible.
The next thing I remember, I was at the hospital. I didn't respond. I guess I was in shock.
I was still on my knees when she fainted, and they took her away.
Days later, Alice asked to meet with Emmanuel, and only asked he apologized to her family. She then became an advocate for him in court.
I was able not to go back to prison.
It's only God. I can't explain it. It's only God, nothing else, no one else.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Rwanda.
Beautiful story. As a symbol of unity, Alice and Emmanuel planted fruit trees together in front of each of their homes. Their hope is that their grandchildren and others will eat the fruit of their reconciliation. After the break, what happened when Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias visited death row in a Louisiana prison.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias recently visited death row in Angola prison in Louisiana, and he said he had a powerful experience. Zacharias wrote about this experience inside the prison in 2 separate posts to Instagram. He said when he was walking through death row, someone in one of the cells burst out singing Amazing Grace. When he approached the cell, a man handed him a cross he had made. Zacharias called it one of the most sobering things he's ever done and said praying with the inmates brought him to tears. He wrote, even in a dark place, the gospel is shining with grace and power. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues you care most about at cbn.com, cbnnews.com, that is. You can always watch us here on the CBN News programs or anytime on the CBN News channel. We'd love to hear about what you think about the stories you have seen here. Email us at newswatch@cbn.com. Have a fantastic day. God bless you.